Welcome to North 100, a Canadian Highlander podcast. I'm Serge. Joining me today, I have a Nelly.
Hi, I'm here.
And a Wheeler.
Thank you for having me, Serge. It's great to be here.
A reminder that everything we do is brought to you by you with your support of the Patreon over at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Welcome to part 2 of our Phyrexia All Will Be One set review. Reminder for our set reviews that they are not exhaustive. We only talk about the cards that we think are interesting or going to make an impact on our format. Previously, we covered white, blue, black, and red, which means today we're going to be... Oh, and lands. Today we're going to be covering the green, gold, and artifact cards. And there's a very interesting comment in the previous episode saying, what about the commander cards? Because typically we also cover the commander decks that are being released with the sets. And to answer that question, I'm going to throw to Wheeler, who typically goes through the pre-constructed decks and finds the cards that we might want to talk about. Wheeler, what is the status of these commander decks?
Well, here's the thing. The commander decks are primarily filled with cards geared towards commander. And a little peek behind the curtain, as a member of the commander advisory group, that's intentional. And
Is that the commander cards are in the commander decks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
I like it.
It's a great change. No more True Name Nemesis. That said, sometimes we get cards that come out that could be playable. In this case, there's only one. It's called Phyrexia Outbreak. It's a 3-mana sorcery in black. It says each opponent gets a poison counter, and then each creature your opponents control get -1/-1 until end of turn for each poison counter its controller has. Why do we skip this? Because we've already talked about the various points regarding poison. Like, what is poison in the format? What does poison want? Does it want this? Yada, yada. And, like, it does want this, and maybe that's worth talking about, but there's just so much poison. And even then, I'll try this, like, a week, and it might be bad. Probably
Yeah,
too
it's
expensive.
like borderline playable as is, right?
I mean, it's a flex slot card. I think it's good, but it just also fills a very specific niche in a very specific niche deck. And we've already wasted too much time talking about it. So that's why. Everything else is just a commander card. That's cool.
Now, also going through the comments, there was one card that I feel we were maybe a little bit harsh on, depending on the feedback we came from, and that is the new Elesh Norn, who might be better than we thought.
Okay, not to say that the comments were wrong on this one. A lot of people were saying that Elesh Norn was better than we thought it was, and then gave examples where she made a broken card more broken.
Now, that's something we say on the show a lot, which is don't play bad cards to make your good cards better, right?
Yes. Or like people talking about, oh, you could proliferate your Urza Saga. It's like, yeah. But what if I just
played Urza Saga, you don't need it, yeah.
But Elesh Norn, I've been thinking about it some more, and I've been talking about this card with some local D&T players and known Mana Crypt fanatics, where I think I think this card can fit that flex slot for Death and Taxes, which Nelson mentioned last week a bit.
I did throw down last week that it goes in that one deck.
And we thought you were wild that, like, well, who plays a 5-drop in D&T? And you're right.
like if you're
on... look back and say that again, too.
If you're on the Soul Ring Mana Crypt Mana Vault point spread, I don't hate that. I think we all kind of were like, yeah, this is a thing you can do, but it's also a 5-mana mythic. But then I've been looking at it and going like, you know what I want to do with this? I want to Eldritch Evolution into this in green-white lands. Or like Abzan lands mid-range. Because that's a deck that already looks to restrict everything your opponent's doing and plays quite a few ETBs itself.
Yeah.
So it's just extremely annoying, one-sided and easy to cast for a 3-color deck that has Mana Dorks or Eldritch Evolution. And then also Ruin Your Evening deck.
Oh, this fits nicely into that deck.
Yeah, it's like I was kind of thinking about it, but in my head I'm like, we have too many 5-drops. Then I remembered I cut my 5-drops. And so now we got room, Serge.
Hooray.
Wouldn't this be fun?
Oh,
I cannot wait for that showdown. It's going to be the first 3-hour episode.
I could keep waiting. Yeah, indefinitely. Neat. Cool. Well, on that note, let's get to the set review proper and start with the green cards. Nelly, why don't you start us off?
Ooh, I like it. It's Armored Scrap Gorger, 1 and a green for a 0/3 Phyrexian Beast. Armored Scrap Gorger gets +3/+0 as long as it has 3 or more oil counters on it. It also taps for 1 mana of any color, and whenever this becomes tapped, exile target card from a graveyard and put an oil counter on Armored Scrap Gorger. So this card has an interesting history as the one tricky card of the pre-release.
Yeah, so
rules-wise,
many
right?
judge calls from this one.
Yeah, exactly. So no, it doesn't get an oil counter if there's no card in the graveyard to target. Yes, you can attack for 0 with 2 oil counters on it, and then before blocks it'll be a 3/3. I like this card. Mostly I've just been thinking about it for Gladiator, but I could see any deck that's already playing Sylvan Caryatid. Like, in Hoof, there's so many mana dorks now. There's a correct spread or whatever, but there's flex slots, I believe, even in the mana dorks. So I like that it adds any color, and I like that it ends up attacking for 3.
Is this a Phyrexia? Sorry, is this a Sylvan Caryatid or is this a Werebear?
Well, it's also like just a scavenging ooze, right? Like just the incidental exiling of the graveyard is pretty sweet. But yeah, Werebear is a good comparison too. It's easier to turn on than Werebear, I think.
I think you just like this card because its flavor text reminds you of working at an LGS. Eat, sort, eat.
Cool.
That's fair.
Also, yeah, I think, yeah, good. I agree.
It's probably okay in places where you would play Werebear, right? Yeah.
Let's move on. Next up is me, the bloated Contaminator. I'm to be clear, I'm not a bloated
Speak for
you
yourself.
just said it's me.
3 mana, 4/4 Phyrexian Beast for 2 and a green. It has Trample, it has Toxic 1, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, Proliferate. A beautiful thing about this card, Ancient Tomb mana. This thing is an easy shoe-in in medium green for sure. And I think any other sort of green-based, like green-white, aggressive deck, red-green beasts is probably pretty happy with this. I don't think the Toxic is going to be tremendously relevant. I think you're just looking at this as a large beater, and you might get some incidental value off of Proliferate. Green-white decks have a lot of +1/+1 counters. Green-red decks have a lot of cheap planeswalkers. Being able to uptick, even if you're not meaning to, like, don't build around any of those abilities. I think you're just happy to get a 4 mana trample a 4 power trampler for 3, and then everything else is just kind of upside.
So big.
Yeah,
It really
goes in
is.
stompy.
All right, next up, Wheeler. Woo!
Canker Bloom. 1 and a green for a 3/2 Phyrexian Fungus. You can pay 1 and sacrifice Canker Bloom. Choose 1. Destroy target artifact.
Woo!
Destroy target enchantment. Proliferate. Okay. So last year we got Outland Liberator and Cathar Commando. Both incredibly good Kasali Pride mages. And then most recently in Brothers War, we also got Lauren of the Third Path.
Yeah.
A new Rec Sage.
In white, yeah.
So, with this card, if I'm playing green-white Hate Bears, or even like the green-white lands mid-range deck, I can run like 4 Kasali Pride Mages and 3 Reclamation Sages. And that's not even counting.
Like acidic slime. Do we put that in just to spite you at this
No,
point?
no, we're not. We're not.
We're going to build a Highlander deck that has a Coco for a disenchant. It's
Yeah.
reliable.
Oh my god.
Mathematically, we're going to get a disenchant off this Coco.
Now, I do want to just put out there that I have once made a green-white deck specifically to try and kill Wheeler in tournaments, and he ended up dodging me like 3 events in a row, so I don't recommend it.
Yeah, don't build to beat me. It won't work.
He's
for multiple
just
reasons.
built different, you know? It's
The proliferate on this isn't super important, but it will come up again, like you mentioned for red green. This can proliferate counters onto, Grist, Oko, cheap planeswalkers, Domries, also spreading some extra counters here and there. Doesn't happen that often, but who knows? Maybe you want to play Gavany Township in your Night of the Reliquary deck in 2023.
I know I'm not the only person who plays Contagion.
Yeah. It's also just a 3/2.
Yeah.
Like, that's wild. Stop it. Jesus Christ. Leave me alone.
all right. Moving on, Nelly.
Conduit of Worlds. 2 green for an artifact that says you may play lands from your graveyard and tap, choose target non-land permanent card in your graveyard. If you haven't cast a spell this turn, you may cast that card. If you do, you can't cast additional spells this turn. Activate only as a sorcery. So we got a slightly more expensive Crucible of Worlds with 2 green pips, so like fairly restrictive in terms of where you can put it. But that upside, whew, I don't know. If you're in some kind of grindy, stacksy, make a 2020 and strip mine them every other turn situation, like seems nice.
This is my favorite card in the set.
I bet.
Really?
Yes.
Shocking.
Well, look, as the premier lands pilot of the format,
Nope.
I can't even put into words how good this card is. It's absurd. And like, as you said, in a Grandy matchup, there's a point where all you need is one spell, right?
Yeah, maybe you're casting your Primeval Titan again. You don't need a second spell that turn if that's what you did.
I wouldn't play this in the land's mid-range decks, though. I think that you already have enough redundancy between Ramanap and Crucible, and that 4 mana for this effect is a bit too much, even though you can do the old Casta spell. But yeah, I will say this, not to time when we're recording this, but last night was the first Monday night Highlander with Phyrexia legal, and it was won by 5-color lands combo, where yours truly lost in the finals because I got locked out with this in play.
Oh, heck yeah.
Oh,
What did they use?
Jacob all over it,
Yeah,
doesn't it? This card?
it was stripping
Yeah.
and then self-milling into Thassa's Oracle
did they
and
cast
casting
Thassa's
Thassa's
Oracle
Oracle
off
with
it?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. We have the Evolving Adaptive, which is a 1-mana 0/0 Phyrexian Warrior for a single green pip. Enters the battlefield with an oil counter on it. Gets +1/+1 for each oil counter on it. And whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, if that creature has greater power or toughness than the Evolving Adaptive, put an oil counter on Evolving Adaptive. Now, this is an interesting comparison to, help me out,
Experiment 1.
Experimental 1, right? What were you going to say?
I was going to say Crucible of Worlds. No, I was.
Oh, you can say the other one though, because there's another one in the cycle that only gets up to 4 from Ravnica.
Oh,
United or
Pelt
whatever.
Collector.
Yeah.
Oh, Pelt Collector. Yeah. Now, if you are a deck that only cares about playing aggressive, low-drop creatures and you want to put some counters on them, this is great. This is fantastic. This is, in my opinion, not as good as Experiment 1 or Experimental 1.
Experiment 1.
Than Experiment 1 because it's oil counters and not +1/+1 counters. And that will matter. Now, mind you, some effects will put an additional counter regardless of the type on it. But if you're specifically playing decks that care about +1/+1 counters or synergize with +1/+1 counters, this card is worse. But if you're a low to the ground, green aggressive deck like, what's Alex's deck called? The Beep Beep, the black-green?
Black Mold.
Black Mold probably loves this. There's probably a lot of cards that loves this. If you're agnostic to the type of counter and you're playing Proliferate, you're going to love this. So yeah, turn it sideways. All right, next up, Wheeler.
Nissa, Ascended Animist. 3 green, Phyrexian green. This is a completed Planeswalker that comes into play with 7 loyalty. But remember, if you pay life for every 2 life paid, it enters with 2 fewer loyalty counters. This is the first Planeswalker we've seen with 2 Phyrexian mana symbols in its cost. So you can pay it as 5 mana and 4 life for a 3 loyalty Planeswalker, or 6 mana and 2 life for a 5 loyalty Planeswalker, or 7 for 7. And now on to the abilities. +1, you create an XX green Phyrexian horror creature token where X is Nissa's loyalty. -1, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Sure, why not? And -7, until end of turn, creatures you control get +1/+1 for each forest you control and gain trample. So this is appealing to some people, I imagine.
I have a judge question for the +1 ability.
Great.
Are those static, like it's an XX equal to the value of the Planeswalker when it resolves? Or does the power and toughness fluctuate as the loyalty changes?
The power and toughness of the Phyrexian horror creature token will be set as the ability resolves and not change, even though Nissa's loyalty might change later on in the game.
That makes it slightly better, Because imagine if it died and you lost all your tokens.
Right. Yeah, that would be bad, obviously. But thank you for asking it, because I think the way it's worded is going to catch a lot of people.
Judge, if I play this and uptick to create a horror token, and my opponent responds and casts Fateful Absence, destroying this, how big is that token?
So because the loyalty counter adds as part of the cost, the token will use the last known value of Nissa's loyalty, I think. Because what does Fateful Absence say exactly? Does it just destroy
target.
It? Okay,
They get a clue, yeah.
cool. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't one that like takes all the counters
Modified
off.
it, yeah, remove it.
If you had some kind of like take
Vampire
all the,
Hex Mage, though,
yeah, if
that'd
you
feel
Hex
bad.
Maged, and then the token would just become a 0/0.
Judge, if my opponent has a Painter's Servant in play naming blue
Yep.
and a Humility, what color is the initiative?
Let's answer that one in the comments.
So my rundown of this card is a bit cynical, not to make a trend out of it, where I think it can have a home in a bad deck, or in a deck that we haven't seen for a while,
Which
at
is?
least. Big Green. Pro Tour Day 2 competitor Noel Robin messaged me about this card when it came out and was like, I want to...
channel decks, right?
Yeah. Green Machine. Playing it like the desperation, play it for 5 mana to blow up an enchantment, like a Time Vault or a Paradox Engine that is just sticking around, or someone's Crucible World so you don't get locked out, is kind of appealing. Playing this on 7 and -7ing is kind of cool. The problem is, like, and why I don't really like it for Hoof, which is something that Noel also brought up. He's like, how do you feel about this in Hoof? And I look at this, I'm like, well, Hoof doesn't have that many forests in play.
Yeah, that's true.
When you're killing your opponent. And even if you only have like 3 forests or whatever, playing this in -7 to just overrun is not really where you want to be. And like at least N-Ray's Forerunners, the like not Hoof, it's Hoof at home, basically, comes with a 7/7 Vigilance Haste Trample body. So yeah, I'm not sold on this card. It's big, it'll kill people in Standard, but I just think like this card's going to get spell pierced so many times.
Do you think in the Hoof list, it sort of depends what your planeswalkers are doing exactly, but the last time I played Hoof, which was a while ago, I had like 6 mana Garruk in for sure, and possibly Vivian Reed, and it's like the planeswalkers in your deck that don't make mana. If you've got one in there whose main thing you're excited about is the like disenchant, then I feel like this one could fight it. Or if you've got one in there that's just supposed to be making idiots, then it's like maybe this can hack its way in there. I don't know. Like
the Planeswalker suite in Hoof now, like you get to play Minsk and Boo. And Ren and
I definitely
6.
haven't played it since
and Garrett.
Boo came out.
I was going to say, I wasn't chuckling necessarily at like the Planeswalkers you were listing, because I have 2 played those.
Yeah, of
it was just when you're like, I haven't played it in a while. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to figure out when. And then you're like,
So I'm playing format of Garruk.
Yeah.
Caller of Beasts.
I mean, unfortunately, we have a
format of Garruk's a good one. It makes mana.
Yeah, hey, wait a minute.
Well, unfortunately, we do have like a red-green planeswalker that makes creatures and taps for mana later in the set review too. We can have this conversation again when that shows up.
Well, love you, Nissa. Sorry about getting turned into a Phyrexian.
Sorry.
All right, next up, Nelly.
Thrun, Breaker of Silence.
Thrun's back.
3 green for a legendary troll shaman. 5/5 with this spell can't be countered. Trample. Thrun can't be the target of non-green spells your opponents control, or abilities from non-green sources your opponents control. As long as it's your turn, Thrun has indestructible. So that's a lot of abilities. It's not quite Questing Beast, but it's a lot of abilities. So we have a 5 mana 5/5 Baneslayer Angel, kind of. Like, it's got the hexproof-ish, and it's uncounterable. I'm trying to think of what other... it doesn't draw you a card. I don't have a home for this. Help me out, team.
I remember.
Is anyone gonna play this?
I remember when Thrun the Last Troll was in like every single green mid-range deck, and it was a problem. And
5 drops in Kata Blade.
I mean, Gargaroth is more of a Baneslayer Angel.
Yeah. Sorry, I said Baneslayer Angel because like the power and mana cost remind me of it, and it doesn't it doesn't have an ETB. And then I'm like, nah. The thing about this is that it has hexproof-ish, right? Like that's different from Baneslayer. It's not actually that fragile. I don't have a good comparison even for this creature among cards that we play.
No, I don't think this card is
It doesn't.
remotely playable.
It wears a sword
Yeah.
real good if you want to give it a sword. It's got
But
trample.
like, it's so expensive. It's so funny because this card is arguably powerful. But the problem is it's a green card in 2023 and they've just printed better cards for years, right? Like you can kind of just, unless you're playing powerful 5-drops that have ETBs or give you more value every turn, you can kind of just stop at 4.
I would just play Carnage Tyrant. Like
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
Carnage Tyrant, just really good in Natural Order slash Eldritch Evolution decks.
Or just Primeval Titan if you want trample.
Or
right?
Prime Time, yeah.
Yeah.
You have other options for big idiots that you can play, especially when it comes to ones that you want to protect. And yeah,
We tried for you, Thrun. We combed our brains looking for the card that in one of our decks we might replace with you.
What's the 5/3 that gains you life when it ETBs and turns?
Drag Tusk.
I'd play Thragtusk over Thrun. I would.
What's the 5/3?
It's okay. Stop shaming him.
No,
We're
I'm-
all getting old together,
I can't-
Wheeler.
So I've established early on that I don't remember card names. I just don't. I know what they do. I can picture them in my mind's eye. The names will always escape me.
This wasn't a you forgot the card name. It's just a look how far we've come.
Yeah, it's
Oh yeah,
weird.
5/3. You're like a
able to forget
5/3.
it. Yeah.
It's just like Thrag. It's literally that Toy Story meme of like I don't want to play with you anymore.
If you've just
Wow.
tuned in, Thragtusk was super ubiquitous at one point.
Every deck.
Yeah.
Deck,
Oh,
deck
yeah.
would splash green. Like you would be
Yeah.
blue-black control and be like, I should be on green just to play Thragtusk so I don't die.
It's how you beat red. You know, goblins running you over at life gain.
More importantly, it was how you beat Thragtusk.
Yeah, you play your own Thragtusk. All right, let's go to me here. And no, we have one more green card after this. The Tyrannix Rex. Tyrannix Rex?
Tyrannix.
Tyrannix Rex. This is a 7-mana 8/8 Phyrexian dinosaur for 4 green, green, green. Can't be countered, has trample, ward 4, and haste, and toxic 4. If you are playing a green deck that isn't hoof and has a lot of mana and wants to have a finisher, not a bad consideration. I don't know how many decks exist that are that. Maybe this big green that we're talking about. Like if you're a green deck and you have channel, this is pretty sweet. This is probably one of those cards where the toxic might be slightly more relevant than you'd think. Like this is going to
Yeah.
kill your opponent in 3 turns, kind of either way, and it's very hard to deal with.
This card's. It sounds so stupid to say because it's a giant green mythic. It's better than it looks. Like, yeah, the way that people deal with this style of creature, especially since it's not legendary.
I was going to
it's
say
just-
it's. I was literally about to say the lack of
Sorry.
crack is. No, that's great. No, keep
But
going.
they try to either soak up damage on the board. They can take maybe one hit and then just like try to trade or try to block enough so that they can kill you with like a Vendilion Clique, right?
Yeah,
and-
absolutely.
And that's kind of where the format is right now, where decks are pretty good at that. Initiative creatures, just all these stupid 4-mana creatures that every deck is playing that all have 4 toughness.
Yeah.
Are pretty good at soaking up some damage, and you just need to trickle over 3 times to kill people. Which
I actually love the way you phrase that. This is a great way of mucking the math that our current meta does a lot of.
yeah, it's again weird to say because it's a 7-mana mythic dino. It's a lot better than it looks, and I imagine there are going to be more people natural ordering into this than you would think,
Yep.
or reanimating. I know a couple of the reanimator players locally picked up this card for that purpose. Just it's hard to kill. It's got haste. It's got trample. What's not to love?
And a clock.
It's so weird that it's 2 more mana than the last uncounterable trample creature we
Yeah.
were just looking at, and yet
We're like,
we all kind
Thrun.
of agree this one's better. What you got to do is spend more mana, kids, but you get haste. It's so huge to have haste.
Thrun's going to take you
on a
5
creature like
turns
this.
to win by itself. This is going to win in 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, excellent point.
Thanks. I don't know. I don't have a reanimator deck built, but this is an interesting include. I like that they'll be playing around with that, and yeah, naturally ordering into it. I'm not sure if I have another spot where I would say like this definitely gets in, but it does seem like a respectable threat.
All right. And then Wheeler, our final green? No.
No.
Dang it.
There's one more green card after this, but if it's okay with Nelson, I would like to talk about that one as well.
Yeah, I would love for that to happen.
This is Tyvar's stand. This is X and a green. It's an instant. It says target creature you control gets +X/+X and gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. I don't know. I can't believe this is a Magic card.
What? We just said in the last episode that the Infect decks aren't getting anything out of this set, right?
Yeah, this one, I mean, I will try this for Infect. I will play this in Infect. But I'm curious to try this out in like Gruul Monsters and Big Green, or sorry, not Big Green, Medium Green, because this is so wild. Like, you ever want to get punished for casting a removal spell and also kill them?
And it also just die?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you could pay this for one and just save whatever.
Yeah.
Or you can attack and your opponent's like, well, here you go. I'll gonjo your creature. And you're like, oh, what are you at? Tap everything and then just like save it. Well, I guess a gonjo's a bad example because it's +X/+X. But yeah, you'll kill them. This card will kill people and save your thing.
And here's a
Pretty
question. Are you cutting something like Blossoming Defense for this card?
No, I think that this card is a bit different from Blossoming Defense, where it feels like it has Blossoming Defense. Not having indestructible makes it more of a I'm playing this to protect and to pump.
Yeah, Blossoming Defense is like I got him, and this is I kill you.
This feels more like a modal spell
Sure.
to me. Like
Okay.
it's Fireball or it's Tameo Safekeeping.
All right, now do the final green card.
Okay. Venerated Rot Priest. 1 green for a 1/2 Phyrexian Druid with Toxic 1. Whenever a creature you control becomes a target of a spell, target opponent gets a poison counter. So for the Infect deck, in our format, be it Bug, be it Jund, all we've ever wanted is we just give more 1-drops. And we got 2, but Bilious Skull Dweller Toxic doesn't work with what the deck looks to do normally. You might still play it, but it's still a maybe. However, this little creature, its reach.
It changes
That's
everything.
so wild.
Yeah.
And it's not just your spells, because Infect is a deck that looks to play a threat and then play like as many spells as I can in a single turn trying to kill you. Or my opponent trying to find a spot where they'll expend their cards to kill the creature, and then I can respond by saving the creature. So either I initiate the fight and they start taking poison, or they go, well, this is the only time I can profitably use my mana to get rid of your Infect creature, so now I have to act. They get punished. You protect it. They get punished. That's wild. It doesn't work with the pump spells in a traditional way, but that's okay. Like, even just turning this sideways and your opponent being like, okay, I'll block. You're like, okay, pump my creature, kill your creature, you take an Infect. Like, that's good enough. Which is wild because that's a play pattern I would recommend most Infect players not take. So, yeah. Huge.
Yeah, it turns your bad plays into good plays suddenly.
Yeah.
Normally, if they can block when you're playing the Infect deck, you just don't attack because you're like, oh, I got to save this pump spell and save this creature, right?
Right.
So yeah, wild card.
And they might be incentivized not to block because it's only guaranteed 1 poison.
Yeah, they don't have to worry about the pump spell one shot with this.
That's all it takes. Just get it going, get it started.
All right, let's move on to gold cards. Nelly, start us off.
It's a Traxa Grand Unifier. 3, and then also a green and a white and a blue and a black. 7 mana for a legendary Phyrexian Angel. It's a 7/7 with flying, vigilance, death touch, and lifelink. I think that's familiar. It doesn't proliferate, though. It has, when a Traxa Grand Unifier enters the battlefield, reveal the top 10 cards of your library. For each card type, you may put a card of that type from among the revealed cards into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of the library. our viewer library in random order, and it reminds you of the card types, of course: artifact, battle, creature, enchantment, instant, land, planeswalker, and sorcery are card types.
But wait, there's a new one, and there's one that we might recognize that's gone. What does this mean, especially with Tarmogoyf?
Right. So yeah, whispers among all of you. Maybe they're gonna errata away tribal. Who knows? I don't know. Mark Roser has probably answered it in his blog whether that's gonna happen or not. I don't know. But yeah, battle is clearly a new card type that we're gonna see at some point in the future. So that's cool.
Did you read the release notes on this card?
I didn't.
It basically says, yes, battle is a card type that's written on this. No, it doesn't have any meaning, comma, yet winky face.
Yeah.
That's like a TLDR, basically
And to
like
clarify,
that.
tribal is still a type that you can get with this.
Well, it doesn't say.
No,
It doesn't give it to it in
all
the reminder text.
all it says is that these are card types.
Oh, not the card types,
Not the
period.
types.
Yeah.
Interesting. I would have interpreted that to mean that you couldn't get tribal with it.
Okay, so heads up.
For like the one card
Judge
that's
calls.
relevant
Yeah.
for if you're playing.
Now, a Magic Judge on a Discord could have lied to me, but
No, I think you're right. Yeah, I saw that Twitter thread too. So I believe
yeah.
with this card you can reveal a Bitter Blossom.
Yes.
And also another enchantment.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the value of this card to your not red or 5-color deck. Okay, so it's a 7 mana, 7/7 flying. I don't immediately have a home where I'm going to cast this. It is a green creature, however. So do we want a natural order? Are we playing a deck that natural orders into a flying vigilance creature that draws you like 4 cards? Probably. Like it's going to, in 10 cards, you're going to hit a land. You're going to hit either an instant or a creature or an artifact, depending on what your deck is. So it's going to draw like at least 2 or 3 cards.
I got one home. Omni Show.
Yeah, I don't hate this card in Omni Show. What about Flash? Is just 2 mana for that triggered ability worth it? I feel like Josh Lane's all
probably
over
not
that.
Flash. Probably not Flash. I think you're doing something very big and very dumb. And if you have your Omniscience in play, what you want is to be able to refill your hand, and then maybe this lets you hit like your combo pieces or something to get moving a little bit faster. I wouldn't play this in Reanimator though.
I don't hate it in Reanimator because it has Vigilance and Lifelink. Go ahead, Wheeler. Where are you putting this card?
I'm not playing it in Omni. As somebody
Okay.
that played Omnitel last night,
Sure.
I don't think
Oh.
I'm playing it at Omnitel.
Okay.
I do agree with you about natural ordering. Wait, did you want a natural order into this?
I'm just trying to think about. I don't have a place where I'm going to put this immediately, but I'm trying to talk up where it could.
I
go.
want a natural order into
Okay.
this.
In what deck?
The Dark Bant deck that kind of Dark Bant / kind of turned into Dark Bant Initiative. It had a diehard local player playing it for quite some time and put up results with it. Top 8 at the Chris Sutherland charity event. It's pretty good. It just, you play all these mana accelerants and then also have Leovold, Teferi, and Oko, that kind of thing, insufferable. But you can also play a natural order spread. Like you can have a lands package involved in it. And so having natural order for Primetime Titania or this is kind of appealing. That's a deck that also can run the Fair Reanimate. I think Mike was playing Fair Reanimate. But yeah.
I
guess
guess,
is so big.
Red can't win against this if this comes into play.
You
Right?
natural
No.
order into this, and then you reveal like a Crucible of Worlds and a Strip Mine and a Titania. Like that's got to feel.
Yeah,
bad.
that's a deck with so. I mean, this wasn't like an intentional and that deck plays Courser of Crufix and
Yeah,
Dryad of
yeah,
the
yeah.
Elysian Grove, and,
Right.
But it does happen to have a pretty. It gets Delirium really easily.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay.
Next up is me, and I get to talk about the Blade Hold War Whip, which is a 3-mana equipment for 1, a red and a white. It has for Mirrodin. When this equipment enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 red rebel creature token, then attach this to it. Equip abilities you activate of other equipment cost 1 less to activate. Equip creature has double strike, and equip for 5. 3, a red and a white. I am a pretty die-hard red-white equipment player. And I've played some bad cards before, like 5-mana Jorkadine, and being like, "No, it's a finisher. If I untap with this, I can't lose." I would not play this, which is perhaps a little bit on the negative side. But a reminder that this is a set review, and sometimes we'll talk about cards that aren't terribly exciting. This is barely playable. as a 2-mana 2/2 creature with first strike that makes other things cheaper.
It's 3 mana though.
3-mana 2/2 with double strike, pardon me, that makes everything else cheaper. It's just this is just so expensive.
I guess the double strike deck is off the 3-mana double strikers.
I mean, if you're looking for double strikers, please let me talk about double strikers.
Okay.
If you want just value, you already have Mirren Crusader, which has protection from 2 things, and if you're playing swords, you can give it protection from basically 4 out of the 5 colors, which is kind of huge. You've got Silverblade Paladin, which when combination of Aether Vial is probably all of the double strike one-shot potential that you need. If you really, really want double strike, there's already the reconfigure weapon that you came from the Kamigawa block, the
Lizard Blades.
Lizard Blades, which is pretty strong.
And there's like 7 other 2-drops, right?
And then I think the next best double strike you have at 3 mana comes from, Kaladesh, maybe? It's a 3-mana 2.
Solemn Recruit.
Solemn Recruit, thank you very much. I would say that's the last of the 3-mana 2/2s that you're excited about that has double strike.
The Solemn Recruit grows every
Yeah,
time, right?
it has,
Whatever,
yeah.
it's morbid or whatever. Whenever
If
a
a
permanent
permanent
leaves the
left the
battlefield,
battlefield,
you get
yeah.
a +1/+1 counter at the end of it. So it's actually a
Right.
pretty strong growth threat. It doesn't have protection of Mirren Crusader, but has a lot more upside, especially if you're trading on the board and stuff like that.
Okay.
So yeah, Blade Hold War Whip, which is also hard to pronounce, loses points there, goes down rather considerably from that.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to say if you're playing this card, it should be for that cost reduction ability, and sadly, I don't
But, like,
think it's
decks
going to
are-
make the cut in decks that are trying to cheat equipment on.
No, there's better. Just play Pure Steel Paladin. Make it free, you know, or any of
Yeah.
the weird, like, as this enters the battlefield, equip for free cards. But that's fine. All
Great
right.
art, though.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, let's move on. Wheeler.
Glissa Sunslayer. 1 black and a green for a 3/3 legendary Phyrexian zombie elf. First strike and death touch.
She's back.
Whenever Glissa deals combat damage to a player, choose one. Draw a card and lose 1 life. Destroy target enchantment. Or remove up to 3 counters from target permanent. Glissa, the original one, is like the best card that doesn't have a reliable home.
Yeah.
Or like a tournament winning home.
The naturalize for your mana, or it's just
No.
artifact?
the-
I'm not hyping up Glissa
The
Sunseeker.
green
That's the
black
first
one.
Glissa, though, right? Oh,
Sorry,
you mean
the first.
Yeah.
second Glissa?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The other first strike death touch one.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Glissa.
What is her name? Mirrodin Besieged Glissa.
Yeah. Glissa Betrayer.
It's like
something?
Glissa, comma something. Yeah.
Glissa the Traitor.
The traitor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also first strike and death touch
Yeah.
and rebuys your Neil Spellbomb and all that jazz. But this one, all 3 of these modes are pretty cool. They're all kind of, they read like Robo Rosewater almost, like on the highest level, where you're just like, okay, you draw a card and lose a life. Destroy only an enchantment. Remove 3 counter target permanent. Okay? All good, but I didn't order these. You know? Like, so finding a home for her might be a bit tough. The decks that can get away with playing this kind of card are already, their 3-drop slot is already like maxed out. Maybe like a Jund mid-range can flex slot this or the Trader.
She's got 2 incredible creature types, but I just don't really see her fitting into
zombie
either of
and
the
elf,
decks.
right? And
Like,
I
she
was,
doesn't really.
It is very funny if
Yeah.
the second, or not, the third iteration, but the second first strike death toucher version of this card still just doesn't find a
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
well, what was the set? It was one of the like the high power draft sets, like maybe Modern Horizons 2 had a green black elf set. No, it was the D&D. It was the Commander set. Commander Legends had a green black elves matter with like some pretty relevant creatures there. And I wonder if not elf ball, not hoof, but maybe there's starting to be enough density for
Whoa,
that
finally.
deck.
Elves?
The Lorwyn Green Black Elves deck, but as
Right?
a Canadian Highlander deck.
No, Jeremy Petter's Dark Side.
I mean, I'll tell you what, if that deck is a real Canadian Highlander deck, this card wants to get in.
Yeah.
I want to play this card, and
I just think Jund mid-range players should try it.
Yeah.
Honestly, the other Kalista. It doesn't draw a new card. It just like sets up loops or whatever.
It just
Yeah.
says when one of their things dies.
When one of their creatures dies, return an artifact from your graveyard
Yeah.
to your hand.
That's
so it can-
so good.
It
and
is
it's
with
fine.
eggs and with all of your stupid baubles and
With
everything.
baubles and all your Urza Saga targets. Like
Yeah.
getting back Pyrite Spellbomb.
I mean, it
Nihil
should be
Spellbomb.
good, right? Like it should be good.
But it's like 10 years old and we aren't playing it. Right?
What about in the Goblin Welder decks that we're working on? Is Glissa supposed to go in Goblin Welder?
Four-color
Green and
Goblin Welder.
black.
Yeah.
Oh.
Five
And its
color
mana
Goblin
cost
Welder.
is like
Green,
green,
black.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2 of 1 pip. Yeah.
Oh, Christ.
That ability though.
Let's just leave it with Jund. Jund, they have enough Lelias and Minsk and Boost that they can flex into some of these. Yeah.
All right, next up, Nelly.
Jorkadine. Do you want to take this
Yeah,
one?
please.
There you go.
Jorkadine, first Gold Warden. This is a 2-mana 2/2 legendary human rebel for a red and a white. Has trample. Whenever it attacks, it gets +X until end of turn, where X is the number of equipped creatures you control. And then, if Jorkadine's power is 4 or greater, draw a card. Finally, a playable Jorkadine. Is this card good? Medium at best, but it absolutely goes in red-white equipment. Now, mind you, you're probably cutting better, arguably, truly, legally, in every sense of the word, better creatures to play it, but you got to try it. These are the type of cards that I look at, and I have a pet deck, and I want to jam them. And you put a Bone Splitter on it. It's going to have 4 power. It's going to draw you cards every turn, and then it's going to trade with something. And that's fine.
The hard part of analyzing these kind of cards is that, much like the advice that we gave at the beginning of the show of what not to do, is that you're kind of just forced to analyze these with other cards.
Yes.
Like you always say, like, imagine this with Shadow Spear or Skull Clamp. It's like, yeah, equipment makes creatures better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this one's good. Actually, and you know what? It's a playable Jorkadine.
Yeah, I agree. Playable Jorkadine. It says draw a card. There's got to be, yeah. I don't know if it does have a second home. Actually, I'm trying to think if it just wants to get into like Naya Beatdown. Because it doesn't need you to have equipment on the table at all. It just needs its power to be 4. Like you can pump it
I mean,
with
it is
any
a
other
human,
thing to draw
and
a
it is a
card.
legend, so maybe Naya Legends?
Build your own Ophidian.
Yeah. All right. All right, let's throw it back to Nelly.
Sure. Kaito, Dancing Shadow. 2 blue-black, a 4-mana legendary planeswalker with 3 starting loyalty. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you may return one of them to its owner's hand. If you do, you may activate loyalty abilities of Kaito twice this turn rather than only once. I love it. Great static triggered ability on the card. +1. Up to 1 target creature can't attack or block until your next turn. Okay, synergistic with the triggered ability. Freeze one of their blockers. 0, draw a card. We love. -2, create a 2/2 colorless drone artifact creature token with Death Touch, and when this leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Okay, so probably we have to put it in our ninjas deck. So, Ninja Planeswalker is going to fit in there. And then maybe also in like Grixis 2-for-1s? Like, can we fit it in there? I just think it's like a lot of raw power, but it is 4 mana and a Planeswalker. I don't see a ton of like combo potential with it. But if you're grinding your opponent, this like can kill your opponent and draw a bunch of cards.
You need to have a pretty specific deck for this, though, because you are giving up board position to either 1 turn pacify a creature or draw a card. And that is a pretty significant downside. And you're not necessarily gaining a lot from this, as you're not ticking up to a powerful ability, right? Like you're not getting a finisher as your
The powerful ability is just a 0, right? That's the end game, is just drawing into more stuff to win with. I think
because at least with let's compare it to old Tameo, for example, where the +1 is you're freezing a creature on their board,
right?
And you're maybe holding parity, right? You're tapping down one thing and you're building up this Planeswalker, but eventually Tameo ults and the game is over.
Sure.
You don't really get that payload from here, and that's what I think is making me nervous about this card.
Very surprised that you two are taking Such a negative tone.
All right, give it to me.
I think this is one of the best cards in the set. It is expensive in that, well, it's a 4-mana planeswalker.
4-mana planeswalker.
But still, you know what it's really good with?
Initiative creatures.
Yeah. And Baleful Strix, Icefang Quaddle,
Well, yeah, initiative creatures.
Initiative Creatures.
Yeah, just cheap
Vendilion
ETBs.
Clique.
Yep.
Yeah. It's basically a card that synergizes really well with the problematic cards that we've received in the past year, as well as the creatures that have existed for like 10 years in our format and still see play. So that's a pretty good sign. And like, I don't think you need an ultimate, because the combination of just locking two of their creatures down, not able to attack or block in your blue-black X deck is huge. You just say, these two creatures that all they do is attack or block can no longer do that. And then I have removal. Or I don't need removal because I have evasive creatures. Or I don't need any of that because you can't do anything. And just, yeah, I feel like the floor on this card is just, it can hit the table and just say no and lock out one of your opponent's creatures. Or just make a Death Toucher that drains them or can pressure other planeswalkers. I like this card a lot.
Okay, let's say we open up with Bitter Blossom.
Nope. You don't need to. I know we said don't use good cards to make bad cards good. Don't put bad cards next to my good cards.
And then turn 3, we're going to Spell Stutter Sprite them. Now you don't even have to draw any more cards. You're just going to keep casting that Spell Stutter Sprite every turn.
I do want to play Spell Stutter Sprite in our format again. But yeah, it doesn't take much to get this going, and I think it can take over a game pretty quickly. Yeah.
All right, back to you, Wheeler.
Luca, Bound to Ruin, 2 red, hybrid, green-red, completed mana, and a green. So either 5 mana total or 4 and 2 life for 5 loyalty or 3 loyalty. +1, add red-green. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells or activate abilities of creatures. -1, make a 3/3 green beast Phyrexian creature token with Toxic 1. -4, Luca deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures and or planeswalkers, where X is the greatest power among creatures you controlled as you activated this ability.
As you activated this ability.
Yeah, so you don't get mucked by it.
Yeah, that's so weirdly written, though.
Yeah, I think this card's bad. Or so unnecessary. Like, it's appealing to think of like a board where your board's at parity and you play this and you wrath your opponent's board at the end, right? You pay 5 mana, and sure, your 5 mana mythic that's dependent on you having another big threatening thing is going to do something that can be cool and good. But this is just like Garruk Wildspeaker at home, and Garruk Wildspeaker is just the perfect planeswalker that still sees play in some of these monsters decks and these creature decks. Why would I? Or Minsc and Boo. Like, I don't want to mention Minsc and Boo every time we get a new planeswalker.
I played Domi Raid over this, too.
This does have Minsc and Boo's mana cost, though,
Yeah.
so it's kind of fair.
Also, the 2 life. Like, it sounds silly to say paying 2 life for something like this being a big deal, but it is a little weird, you know? It's just like, at that stage in the game, playing a big card like this and paying 2 life in order to make it, like, somewhat playable, we don't need to make these concessions in our format with our cards. So don't. Yeah.
All right. Next up, Nelly.
Malkator, Purity Overseer. 1 white-blue for a 3/3 Phyrexian Elephant Wizard, legendary. When Malkator Purity Overseer enters the battlefield, create a 3/3 colorless Phyrexian Golem artifact creature token. It's a splicer. At the beginning of your end step, if 3 or more artifacts entered the battlefield under your control this turn, create a 3/3 colorless Phyrexian Golem artifact creature token. So, yeah, if you want to play Blue-White X Blink and make a bunch of golems, this is going to do that for you. Are there better things to be playing at this mana cost? Almost certainly. Does this card help you with what you're doing? Also, yes. Getting 3 artifacts to enter the battlefield under your control in a Blue-White X Blink deck, maybe not that hard if one of the things you're blinking is like a Phyrexian Metamorph. So, yeah, obviously this needs some help from other cards or plans in order to be worth the mana you're putting into it. But that could happen. I don't know. It's like a B-.
You could potentially have 7 power and toughness for 3 mana on a turn,
Yeah.
which is pretty wild.
It could be turn 3 or 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
If it's just like the one that it makes, you also played an artifact land
And a Mox or
and a Mox.
anything.
Yeah.
I li-
Great. We did it. We got until 49 minutes in the episode, and until we were like, this card's fine as long as you started with a Mox.
I do like it in the fact that it's if an artifact ETBs. So I do like it in the like blue white or like Jeskai artifact. Not quite the welder decks, but the decks that are just like Mox and Urza exists. Because getting this online off of like a Psi Masterthopterus trigger is pretty easy. Clue tokens being made too.
Yeah,
if you wanna
treasure.
get-
Right? Like, yeah.
You can Caracas this too to, rebuy it and play things over and over again. And
Yeah.
Blade Splicer still kills people occasionally.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Blade Splicer is like still around as an option points to this being fine, basically. Like the chance to make more 3/3s is got to be as good as giving that 3/3 first strike.
Riptide Laboratory.
Oh.
Yeah, you just need a
It's a
Caracas as a
wizard.
Riptide Lab, and then bang, you're making like 15 power a
Perfect.
turn for a
Oh my
mere
God.
15 mana.
All right, next up is me. And we've got Malira, the Living Cure. This is a 2 mana 3/3 legendary human scout for a green and a white. So a Watch Wolf, very good. If you get 1 or more poison counters, instead you get 1 poison counter, and you can't get additional poison counters this turn. And exile Malira, the Living Cure. Choose another target creature or artifact. When it's put into a graveyard this turn, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. So this Malira does 3 impersonations, albeit kind of poorly. It's a worse Watch Wolf because it's also legendary. Hey, don't make that face wheeler. It's also legendary. That's a downside. It's a worse Malira because it still allows counters to be put on you, but albeit fewer of them. So this one only hoses Infect decks instead of being a combo piece in so many decks like the Malira that we know and we love. And it's a bad Safi's Eric's daughter because it only does it once. Don't do that face. You know I'm right. That being said, think of it like a modal card because it's a 2 mana 3/3 and it's ahead of the curve in a lot of other situations because it's a Watch Wolf, and that's good. It'll help you in case you end up against the one Infect player in your local community, and they're like, wait a second, this is bad for me. And you can do some Safi Eric's daughter shenanigans, like get a combo started. I'm not experienced enough of a Sandy B player to know if this goes in Sandra Bullock. Again, it's an exile, so you can't loop with it, so probably not. But you might be able to do something like a Dauntless Bodyguard thing where you do get to protect a very key creature to push through lethal or something like that. So kind of cool, kind of good if you're playing a green-white deck that wants to punch, but I don't think it goes into any of the really like creature-based combo decks, even though it has some of the similarities to decks that would make you think that.
God, Malira's gotten so jacked in the years since the last time we saw her.
She's had to kill a lot of Phyrexians.
Somehow she knew she didn't want to be looping in and out of the graveyard like Safi Eric's daughter.
That's fair.
She's just like, get me
You're
out
like,
of
you know what?
here."
I'm done. I'm going to sit down and I'm not getting back up.
I don't immediately have a place where I would put this, but it's a Watch Wolf. It's going to be fine. Like
It's
you
a
said.
Watch Wolf that saves your GT.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's just good enough. All right.
I'm unreasonably mad, and I don't know why.
That's
Do you
fair.
have a deck that you would put this in?
No, I just love her.
Yeah. She's
no,
gorgeous.
That's fair. Sorry,
no,
sorry.
yeah.
I do have a
And
deck. Yeah,
valid.
the green white little kid deck. The green white like
Because the little kid loves her the most.
the green white like locks it on Smiter,
Yep.
Scavenging Ooze,
Yeah.
Null Robin, beep beep, kill
Yep.
you deck.
Yeah, I'm just always going to play creatures that have better power and toughness in the mana curve and just kind of take over the board that way.
Yeah. Saves your Crucible World, saves your GT.
Best friends with, what's the green-white 2/2 elemental that if they cast spells?
Voice of Resurgence.
Like this in voice? Come on. That's a spooky.
Yeah.
Ugh. All right, let's move on to Wheeler.
Mig Laws, Maze Crusher. 1 red and a green for a 4/4 legendary Phyrexian beast. Mig Laws enters the battlefield with 5 oil counters on it. Pay 1, remove an oil counter from Mig Laws. It gains vigilance and menace until end of turn. Pay 2, remove 2 oil counters from Mig Laws. It gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Pay 3, remove 3 counters from Mig Laws. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. I would play this in green-red monsters or green-red beatdown. It's a 3 mana 4/4. That's all you need, but it also does other things that suck. I hate them. Stop killing my things. You could just beat my face instead. This is so rude. It's like the answer to my stupid dorky artifacts are either, oh, well, I could kill you, but if I can't kill you, I'll just kill that. I hate idiot. Who is this card? What makes you legendary?
Yeah, what do we even know about Migloss? Wait a second. Good call.
I don't know. They're a Maze Crusher, but for some reason they're on New Phyrexia.
Yeah, they're in the wrong set. Did
Yeah,
they come over
they
from...
should be in War of the Spark.
Yeah.
I did hear that Mig Laws died of Steve Jobs.
I don't even know why.
Let's move on.
You're a
Let's
funny
move
guy,
on.
but I don't get the joke. Okay. I
Next
love this
up-
card, though. Yeah.
Next up is Nelly.
It's Nahiri the Unforgiving. 1 red, Phyrexian Boros mana, and a white. So combinations of 2 life and 1 red white, or 4 mana, where one of them has to be red and one of them has to be white, and one of them has to be red or white. Okay, 5 loyalty, but it's completed. So either 3 or 5 loyalty. And a +1 until your next turn, up to 1 target creature attacks a player each combat if able. Really interesting wording there. Does force your opponent's creatures, or the one you targeted, to attack each one of the extra turns they take. So that might matter. +1, discard a card, then draw a card. 0, exile target creature or equipment card with mana value less than Nahiri's loyalty from your graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of it. That token gains haste. Exile at the beginning of the next end step. So you can make a 1-turn ball lightning of a creature or equipment in your graveyard. You can rummage, and you can force your opponents to attack. I don't like this card.
Where's it going?
I don't know what
does it
you're doing with it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't defend itself. It actually does the opposite of that.
Yep.
Come and hit me. Well, sorry to hear you
Sorry,
lost your
Nahiri.
arms.
What are they doing with red white planeswalkers? Just give us a Johnny
It's
Vengeance.
all gone downhill
Oh,
since the
Johnny
Johnny
Vengeance.
Vengeance.
Comet was good,
Comedy is pretty good, actually.
and a Johnny Vengeance was key. But
Like, when did they print a Johnny Vengeance? Like M11?
Shards of Alara.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait, really?
Yeah.
Shards of Alara.
And we haven't had a good red white planeswalker.
Oh, Comet.
No, no.
Comet from last summer. Yeah.
Comment from last summer, Nahiri. Not this one.
Oh, yeah.
the other
Shadows
format in
Nahiri
Nahiri,
that
the
goes
one
and
that-
gets Emrakul.
Yeah, the Emrakul
That
Nahiri.
one's
I played that a lot in Jeskai.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You rummage 2 with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Like,
it-
this one can be 3 mana, which is big, but then you paid 2 life and 3 mana, you got 3 loyalty. And
You
like,
play this and your opponent plays Oko, and they're like, nice 3-mana
This suffers from Royal Scion syndrome.
Yeah.
In that it's worse than Royal Scions, and also Royal Scions doesn't seem that much play.
This suffers from Royal Scion syndrome in that this isn't a blue card, so
Yeah.
I don't know why you're putting it in your mono
I
blue
don't see.
control deck.
Yeah, and it suffers from Royal Scion syndrome in that I see neither Will nor Rowan on the card.
Yeah.
All right, next up is me with Tivar, the Jubilant Brawler. Here's another 3-mana planeswalker, and it's a black-green elf. Coincidence?
No.
Anyways, 3-mana, 3 loyalty
Yes.
planeswalker. You may activate abilities of creatures you control as though those creatures had haste. +1, untap up to 1 target creature. -2, mill 3 cards. Then you may return a creature card with mana value 2 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. I think this is kind of cool. I think this is kind of cool if you want all of your elves to have a very specific kind of haste, which is they can tap to add mana the turn they come into play. I think you can do some kind of busted stuff with it by untapping, your Priest of Titania or whatever. I just don't know how many decks are really in a position to leverage this. It might also be kind of interesting, maybe in Reanimator, giving all your looters haste. Maybe. Like, maybe there's some weird shenanigans you can do around stuff like that. It's very niche. I don't know the home for it, but I do think it's cool. Any thoughts immediately leaping out to either of you two?
Yeah, sorry. I have at least 2 decks that I want to put it into in Gladiator, but in Canadian Highlander, I still feel like it's really powerful for the reasons you said. But the only deck that comes to mind is like maybe Jund Fast. I don't know, maybe Black Mold? Where are you putting this card?
No,
The-
this is not a black
The
mold
first
card.
2
It
abilities,
doesn't-
like it makes mana,
I think I'm putting this in my trade binder mostly.
Yeah,
Nobody else
yeah.
likes this card.
I mean-
I have faith, Hivar. There's gonna be a deck for you.
I don't think our format has this is like a card that is perfect for 60 card combo
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
But
right?
we don't
like Elf Ball. Oh my god.
Like we don't have we have devoted druid combo, but also we don't have the redundancy of always having one of the pieces potentially in play getting killed or getting milled or whatever.
Yeah.
I might try this for like if this elf deck comes to fruition, but I'm not even excited for this in Sandy B. So
Wow. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to artifacts. Wheeler. It's like we planned it. It's like we planned it. We didn't plan it. This is a coincidence.
draw Skull Bomb, 1 mana artifact. It's an egg. Pay 1, sacrifice, draw Skull Bomb, draw a card. Pay 2 and a black, sacrifice, draw Skull Bomb. Return target creature from your graveyard to your hand, draw a card. Activate only as a sorcery. I'm going to save you some time and not talk about all the loops that you can set up with Mirror Retriever and this and KCI and all that jazz, but that's pretty cool and good. But also just like value returning your Trinket Mage with this card is pretty hot. It's at like the floor. You don't need that last line of text. Like it's just a 1 mana artifact you could sack to draw a card. But then when you tack on this utility ability that lets you recur some of your more mid-range pieces as well, or certain tutor pieces, and also get to draw a card off that, ooh, yeah, this is one of the best eggs of all time, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
It
like,
doesn't even make mana to replace itself for free.
yeah. Well, in a way, I mean, you know what? We don't have time for me to actually.
When you return your Aureox Salvagers from your graveyard, it makes
No, that's-
infinite mana with your Black Lotus.
No, fair enough. Do we have a second egg back-to-back? If so, maybe we throw this to Wheeler. I can't quite tell. What's the next card?
No.
Mirren.
Oh, okay, we'll throw this to Wheeler then. Pardon me, Wheeler. Nelly.
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
We have Wheeler at home. Mirren Safe House. A 3 mana artifact. As long as Mirren Safe House is on the battlefield, it has all activated abilities of all lands in all graveyards. So this looks super fun and probably has, I'm going to guess, a home in one of these land mid-range decks. Just another copy of your thing, or is it not enough? Oh, he's giving me the frowny face.
No.
I don't land out too hard, but this card looks really fun. I don't know. I like
It does, but I
things that have
can't
abilities.
think of anything. It does in Dark Depths Thespian Stage, which is a
Right.
big deal because that is a static ability that cares if it has counters on it. Like you can't activate that ability and turn it into a Merit Lash. You could turn it into some of your. Does it go in? Does it work with like?
I guess it just being a
Cradle
Stone
or-
Rain is not incredible. Hey.
No.
Ah, darn it.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you, everybody who wanted this card to be like on our list and in our decks.
These jerks at WotC, they print this card so it specifically doesn't go infinite with every other combo.
Yeah.
It's really infuriating.
Yeah, and then like all of the good cards, you're like, oh, maybe if my good cards are gone, I play this, and then it's a copy of my good card. But then you're just sad, and you just like find ways to get your good card back.
For the one Paradox player in the comment section, this does open up an avenue to loop with your Academy in the graveyard, and you can use Voltaic Key, Rings of Bright Hearth.
Oh, to double untap and go
Yeah.
infinite with this.
The
Yeah.
other thing I was just thinking as I'm like digging so hard, I'm like, well, if you have a Buried Ruin in your graveyard, then now you have an artifact that can get back another artifact. So there's probably a loop there.
You can Rings of Bright Hearth with Buried Ruin in this card.
And this card, then
Yeah.
you're just generating
some
value
stuff,
target
yeah.
itself. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Okay.
Maybe there's a weird world where you're self-milling a bunch of utility lands, but it's like anytime you have an effect that does this, because this on creatures has been a long-standing combo forever, right? Like, oh, hey, I buried alive, and now you're just dead because I have the exact 3 cards I need to kill you.
Right.
But lands are not quite there.
All right. Sorry, Mirren Safe House. Back to Commander with you, or maybe my bad Paradox Engine
Oh.
deck.
Oh,
Wait, do you think of something?
I mean, Tolarian Academy and Oboro is kind of hilarious.
Oh.
Yeah,
You just
yeah,
tap it
tap
for,
bounce
like,
in your hand
5
and have
bounce
fast
and
bond,
replay.
Oh my
whatever.
God. Okay, there we go.
You don't even
That's
need
not-
fast bond. 'cause
That's not terrible. It's an
do that
artifact.
twice.
Yeah.
You just need to have 5 artifacts out.
You just
and
need to have a
generate
bunch of
infinite mana.
artifacts in your
And
Academy
both of those
and
cards
Oboro
in your
graveyard.
graveyard.
Just put your Academy in your Born graveyard.
So, but like if you're playing a lands deck and you have lands in your graveyard and you're playing a 3 mana artifact, just let it be Crucible of Worlds. You know?
Yeah, this
there
like-
are a lot of Crucible of Worlds you can play. now.
Yeah, there's like 7 Crucibles now. Just play one of those.
All right.
That's
All
my thought. All right, let's move on to me. Soulless Jailer is a 2 mana 0/4 Phyrexian creature, artifact creature Phyrexian Golem. My goodness. Permanent cards in graveyards can't enter the battlefield. Players can't cast non-creature spells from graveyards or exile. I'm actually kind of conflicted about this card. One, I love that it's a jailer, because there's very few references of creatures that hate on graveyards being jailers, and this is one of those, and I like this.
There's one other one. Yeah.
Yeah, from like Time Spiral.
Future Sight.
Future
Yeah.
Sight.
Future Sight. Yeah, there's the 2/1 jailer that did something similar. So I like that it's a callback, and maybe that's what the art is. I hope the art is a reference. It's probably not, but in my head canon it is. And I have a soft spot for 2 mana 0/4 artifacts that hose your opponents. Hello, shout out to Spellskite. This is obviously not Spellskite. That being said, I really don't know what this card is going to do for you. It's a creature and it's an artifact, which makes it extremely vulnerable. So let's say that you're a control or prison deck that's trying to lock out what your opponent's doing. You can't wrath the board and have this stick around, which is typically what you'd want to do. Like if this was just an artifact, you could use it as a lock piece. Or if you wanted to be proactive and sort of D&T your opponent, you'd want this to have some level of power to it. So this is a really cool effect that shuts things down, but doesn't do it in a way that lets you leverage it to give you any advantage to sort of attack your opponent with it.
I just really want to agree with the point that if it has single point of power, I think the D&T players would be all over it. Because if it can connect with the Jitte on it, then it's on the Hate Bear gang. But if it has 0 power, it only does one of the things.
Now, I've played Spellskite in Artifact aggro. Just because you have so much equipment and so many passive ways to buff the power of all your artifacts, it doesn't quite matter, and I don't think I'd play this card.
If I'm a Storm Pilot, I am so happy if my opponent plays this card instead of like any other like
Something
Hate
with
Bear
power.
or something with power.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I would much rather face that. Like if I'm playing either Yogg-Will or Breach Storm, I would much rather face this than like Goblin Guide or like I don't know Isamaru.
Yeah,
You need your creatures need to be able to attack, kill people. Yeah.
All right, Wheeler, you're up.
Surgical Skull Bomb.
We did it again.
Wow. 1 mana artifact. Pay 1, sack, draw a card. It's an egg. Pay 2 blue, sack, return target creature to its owner's hand, draw a card. Activate only as a sorcery.
Now that's important. This one, because you can't muck people's combat, but I'm sure you'll talk about it.
Yes, yeah. It's very similar to Aether Spellbomb, which is pay a blue, sack, bounce a creature. Of course, you could do that at instant speed. But I wanted to bring this one up as well because the fact that you get the utility and draw a card is huge. Because one of the spots where eggs can kind of find itself being a little tripped up is when you are using your mana to stop your opponent from locking you out or from killing you, and then you are unable to use that mana to convert your eggs into more cards. Because you play all these really bad artifacts with the idea that you will get mana out of them and then convert them into cards later. And that can be a bit of a bummer when your opponent's like, no. But this lets you kind of keep the flow going, even if it's at a bit of a higher cost. Not to mention, Pithing Needle and Sorcerer's Spyglass are on the up and up. Pithing Needle especially because of Urza's Saga decks. And it's nice, or Phyrexian Revoker with the ubiquity of Death and Taxes. And nobody's going to remember what this one's called. So being able, or they'll be like, what's the blue spell bomb? I'm like, Aether spell bomb? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, you can name that. Anyway, Sax.
Boo.
I'm not, no. I'm not going to.
Never gonna do
It's a
someone
turn
dirty like
after
that,
a duress.
Yeah. No, I don't need to angle shoot to win,
Yeah.
to kill people with eggs.
The best players don't.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does get around some increasing specific hate pieces that I've seen increased play recently.
It's always exciting when the Canadian Highlander players get at least the second version of something that's still playable. Either it's identical or like this is good enough. Like this, the Aether Spellbomb, 2 more mana, but you get a card as well. Like it's good enough. So now it's a second.
We upgraded our Blood Fountain, and we got a second Aether Spellbomb. Oof. I'm happy. I don't even care that they made the red one just oil counters.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
The Pyrite spell bomb is rip. All right, Nelly.
Sword of Forge and Frontier. The latest entry to the Sword of Something and Something Else category. This time it's red-green, so 3 mana for an artifact equipment with equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from red and from green. A really powerful couple of colors to have protection from on the same ability. A whole bunch of decks are just red and green, or just red, or just green. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play those cards this turn. You may play an additional land this turn and an equipped for 2. Now, I'm a little sad they didn't call it Sword of Explore and Explore, but I still really like the card. It's a very cool thematic ability that fits in okay with like an aggressive deck hoping to hit their opponent quickly with equipment, and that's it's fine. Like the bonus is not quite sort of Feast and Famine or sort of the good one.
Fire and Ice?
Fire and Ice,
Yeah.
thank you. But close. Like you can draw 2 cards. That's pretty good. I don't know. I might try this in like mono black aggro. That's the deck where I play equipment.
I got a good nickname for this.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Sword of Bert and Cheaty.
Yeah, that's also
Yeah,
good.
that's-
Yeah, I like it. The 2 explorers
2
thing.
explorers.
Oh.
But yeah, honestly, I think they did the red-green sword justice. Like,
It
I would put-
certainly does red and green.
No, sorry, Justice is the blue-white one.
oh, my bad. Yeah.
Boo.
No, I think, honestly, though, like, is this one like 4th? Like, the black-white one sees some play from
That's
time to time. Light
War
and
and
Shadow.
Peace, Light and Shadow.
Yeah,
Yes, thank you.
Light and Shadow, because just gaining 3 life reliably is nice.
I used to play Light and Shadow in Workshop Weenie for the ability to buy back creatures.
Right.
Because yeah, it gains life, which is not nothing in the aggressive matchup, but specifically for the extra reach because your creatures die because they're all terrible. So being able to like have the card advantage that way is not bad.
But I think decks that are currently playing War and Peace might want to replace this one with it.
War and
D&T
Peace is
players,
pretty good, though.
let me know in the comments how high up you rank Sword of Forge and Frontier.
So my issue here is I'm probably going to say something that Wheeler's going to follow is like very few of the swords are even playable these days.
Sure.
Because equipment is really expensive and the equipment that you do have access to is just so much cheaper. And that breaks my heart. Like I want to do nothing more than cheat in my Batter Skull off a Stone Forge and then give it a grafted war gear and then give it also like a Sword of Fire and Ice and just swing for 1,000,000 and then like that's the type of rock'em sock'em magic that I know and I love. And I look at this and I'm like, a single tear goes down my face. I'm like, this is a good sword that I'm probably never going to cast.
Is it just a reality of the format that I haven't come to grips with either, that the only 2 playable equipment are Cauldron Complete and Jitte?
No.
Is that it? Okay.
No,
all right.
I mean, you are on the right track though, in that I think all the swords are just unplayable now. I mean, that's that's a Wheeler hot take, but like, they're just too expensive.
I'll
Yeah,
still,
it's always been quite a bit of mana.
yeah, I'll still play Sophie just because it draws a card, and that shock is not nothing.
Yeah.
So my biggest critique, if I had to critique the sword as is not that it does red and green well. I wish it did a better job of fighting red and green decks, and that I wish it gained life. Because that's what you really need is not protection when you're fighting the red and green deck is you need a way to sort of stabilize the board. And sure, like maybe a little bit of a card advantage and playing an extra land might be able to help. But like I want a body. I want like a 2/2 wolf token like the green blue one.
It doesn't counter them. It just maybe kills
Yeah,
them.
and I want to gain like a couple, maybe 4 life.
Well, they give you extra cards because it's protection from the 2 colors that so easily blow up your sword.
Yeah,
you need
like-
to recoup some
Yeah,
losses.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or you go to equip it and they bolt your creature in response. Like it's just really tough.
All right. So in a world where sort of anything and anything else is playable, this one's probably okay.
All right, next up is me, the Zenith Chronicler. This is actually the last card we're going to be talking about today, and I'm pretty happy with this one, to be honest. 2 mana, artifact creature Phyrexian Construct. It's a 3/1, and whenever a player casts their first multicolored spell each turn, each other player draws a card. I actually don't hate this. So you put it in aggressive workshop decks. It goes in the slot that Hovermere would have gone in. Single tier goes down my face. Not for nothing. The fact that it's a construct is pretty cool. There's increasingly cards that synergize with constructs, either tutoring for them or trying to put counters on them or for whatever reason. So like that might come up. And you might draw a couple cards. You might incidentally let your opponent draw a card too, but every good aggressive deck has a couple non-bows. As long as your opponent dies before that becomes a problem, it's not really a downside, is it?
Mono black?
Yeah, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Jumping right into mono black. There's been so many great cards for that deck in the last few sets.
Heck yeah.
What is there a chance that it makes the cut in D&T as well? That deck doesn't mind drawing cards. I don't think there's room for it.
Yeah, I don't think you need it.
The problem with white is that the creatures are good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
How about-
stupid white?
How about red deck wins? Probably also not quite.
Yeah, I don't
enough.
think.
No.
I think it's too slow
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
Okay, but you don't even like the mono black aggro deck. So do you have a home for this deck? What do you think
Hold
is
the
among
fort.
the good
I
decks?
like mono black aggro.
All
I
right.
just hate the
Set it
bad
on
cards you play.
Okay, well, let's leave
he
this
likes
one
the
up
deck,
next
just
time.
not your version of the deck. Apparently,
That's
hurtful.
fine. We should get a version. that we can agree
I
on.
just think that archetype is in dire need of people to build it from the ground up.
All right.
Starting in 2023 and not 1999.
Just building it with the first thing in their head saying, I don't need Carnophage. I don't need Sarcomancy.
Oh my
I
God.
actually cut those two for the last
Yeah.
time because
Oh.
they're giving us so many just quality creatures like
Yeah.
that Razor Lash Transmogrant.
Mm.
Or that one from the unset. Like, yeah.
Sure. Or this one.
Yeah. All right. So that is going to do it for the individual cards. And I'd like to take a second now to ask your thoughts on the set as a whole. And I'll start with Wheeler.
Not to be called a negative Nancy in the comments, because I think it's okay to have bad sets. This set is not impactful for Canadian Highlander. There are not a lot of cards that are auto-includes in a variety of decks, and that's a good thing. But also, the cards that go into more niche decks are just redundancy inclusions, and that's not the most exciting. But I'm all right with that because so many cards come out. So I'm all right. Just like if the most exciting cards from this set are like a cool new Ninja Planeswalker or Kemba, that just reinforces the equipment Cauldron Complete deck or whatever.
Second Ether Spell Bomb.
Yeah, like that's cool. Great. Just so not great for the format. Not a lot of new inclusions for the format.
But maybe
But
that's
also-
good for the format. Yeah.
But yeah, just make every set like this.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree in general. Certainly, like, not every set needs to have 10 cards even for our format. I think if every set has one or two and then, like, half a dozen cards that go into the niche strategies, that's totally fine. These set reviews don't need to be 100 cards in order for the set to be a success from WotC's perspective. But from us, yeah. Couple cards we talked about. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to getting destroyed by that Ninja Planeswalker. And I don't know. I hope that some of the Infect players are at least stoked about that new indestructible trick and the one drop in green. So we have that.
I'm just, as soon as you said getting destroyed with that Planeswalker, I don't see a lot of people killing me with it except for Wheeler and just being insufferable about it. And
I'm
be
sure
like,
Josh Lane would kill you with it if he
Oh,
was
that's
playing
fair.
regularly. Like that
Look,
style.
it's gonna be
Just
like the
chipping at
like
you.
the old Jace the Mind Sculptor play pattern where it's like I can't do anything about this, and it's
Yeah.
gonna take them like 35 minutes to kill me.
Yeah.
I guess I could like concede and go get a milkshake or something. But
There
Jesus.
you go.
Actually, local Jace might. I wonder if he's going to play it because
Oh, man.
he plays so many creatures that are good with it.
I think I
Like
commit.
the Sultai midrange.
I don't know. That would require changing cards in his deck.
He looks at new cards sometimes.
I don't have much else to add other than what you two have said. So with that, my friends, what do you think about the set? Let us know down in the comments below. Similarly, if there's any cards that you're excited to talk about that you think that we missed, let us know. Reminder that this podcast and everything we do is brought to you by you with your support over at the Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. I've been Serge, joined by Nelly,
I was here.
Wheeler.
Thank you for having me. It was great to be here.
Today we had the wonderful Paul on deck. Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.